We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to each one of you. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. To learn more about our events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'd be happy to talk with you during the coffee hour. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out, we'll be able to stay in touch with you. At the end of our service, we do joys and sorrow. If you would prefer to do one in writing that I would read, please go ahead and do that and put it in the offertory. Our minister, Reverend Kristina Spaude, will bring us the service today. Bonnie Whitehurst and the choir share the music for us today. The first piece of music, Break Out the Festival Band, Bread, number 220 in the gray hymnal.
I will play it through once so you get the idea of the tune, and then also make note that verse 4 and 5 are on that second page.
I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. I use she, her pronouns, and am a white woman. I am tall with shoulder-length curly brown hair, parted on one side, and blue eyes. Our opening words this morning come from Gretchen Haley. This is Rise. Because the tides are rising, so must we rise to this moment, rise to this day, rise to this life, this place in the web that is yours and ours. Rise, because the earth remains our only home, and we, fellow travelers, its only hope for healing, salvation, wholeness. Rise before the mystery, before the Big Bang that started it all, that this infinite universe still takes notice of us, still feels the in and out of our breath, still holds us, connects us. Rise or surrender with gratitude for the beauty, this chance, to be a part of it all, to give back, to weave life, past, present, future, everywhere, always, as one. Come, let us worship together.
We kindle our chalice with these words from Tracy Johnson. We kindle our chalice flame during this morning, awaking the fire of our ancestors in our hearts. Beacon of freedom held out to light the way, light of reason illuminating the path, spark of courage igniting our spirits, aglow with hope for all we endeavor to do together. Holy flame of times past, brighten this present moment that we may be the love that is our center and the foundation, our foundation both. Blessed be. And now we will read the covenant.
We strive to look forth and encourage the sweet other as we move toward justice, peace, and love for both ourselves and the world. And when we fall short, we will seek understanding, reconciliation, and a return to covenant.
Our story this morning is titled Homeland, My Father Dreams of Palestine, written by Hannah Mushabek and illustrated by Reem Madua. We wait for our father to come home from work. We know he's coming when we hear the coins jingle in his pockets and he walks up the stairs. Sometimes he whistles us to sleep. Sometimes he tells us stories. We like the stories best. There's a story about how he fed his neighbor Muhammad so many beans that he farted powerfully enough to lift off the ground. And there are stories about our homeland, a place we've never been. Every summer, my father visited his grandparents, Teta Maria and Sido Abu Michel, who lived in the old city of Jerusalem. The final day of one visit started with his favorite breakfast, kak. Teta Maria called through the window to a street vendor below. She dropped a basket on a rope, and up it came, delicious bread, still warm. No matter how much food my father ate, Teta Maria always told him, "Eat more, Habibi." His Sido was a stern-looking, tarbush-wearing, argila-puffing, mustachioed man. He was always busy with grown-up matters. But this bright morning, Sido announced that together the two of them would visit the family cafe. Walking through the streets of East Jerusalem, my father and his Sido stopped every few paces to greet people and tell stories. Abu Michel was an al-Mukhtar, the head of the community, and he spoke many languages. They walked hand in hand through a bustling collection of colorful vendors. Men and women sold everything from olive oil soap with rose water and healing bags of za'atar to gold jewelry and embroidered textiles. As they walked, they were serenaded by sounds, the chanting of the muezzin's call to prayer mixed with the ringing of church bells, and the market vendors singing the praises of pickling cucumbers and prickly pears. They could hear the cheerful sounds of children practicing dabkas dancing and the songs of Kulthum that blasted from radios on windowsills. But what fascinated my father most was the juice vendor. A short man, he carried a big tank filled with jalab on his back. He traveled by foot from neighborhood to neighborhood. To announce his arrival, he played beautiful, intricate rhythms using brass cups and saucers. I kind of think of this as the Jerusalem version of an ice cream truck. To his teta's horror, my father later practiced these same rhythms at home using her china. Now a professional drummer, he shows me and my sisters the juice man's rhythms by drumming on our backs like a musical massage. At the family cafe, my father was greeted quickly with one kiss on each cheek by Amo Mitri. He was then put to work cutting cucumbers, chopping parsley, and preparing plates of olives and pink pickled turnips. The cafe was a popular destination for great thinkers. Poets, musicians, historians, and storytellers gathered to listen to the exchange of ideas at the Al-Mukhtar's cafe. With a rare smile, Sido signaled to my father to follow him down a hallway. Sido unlocked the iron gate and led him to a lush, sunlit garden. Hundreds of homing pigeons rustled in their wooden cages in the shade of a proud olive tree. The next moment, he released all the pigeons and skillfully guided them into a circle in the sky with the help of only a black piece of cloth tied to the end of a long stick. With surprise and delight, my father asked, "Won't they fly away?" Sido shook his head slowly, the key swaying at his side. This is their home. That was the last day my father saw his grandfather, the last time he saw Palestine. Our eyes are heavy with sleep, but we want to hear more. "Show us the key," we cry. My father produces the large, rusty old key to our father's home in Jerusalem. We know the ending of the story is not a happy one. We know that we may never sit and watch the juice man by Jaffa Gate, but we whisper the hope of return as we turn out the light. At night, we dream of our homeland. And with that, we will sing the children to their programming with Jami, hymn number 413 in the gray hymnal. And as we do so, I will light this candle to symbolize the light and love of this community to hold them in their time together.
Go now in peace.
Now is the time in the service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. This month, Social Justice Council is asking for donations for the Pride Parade. For those at home, please go to our website, click uutarpon.org, click on the donate button and select Social Justice Give the Plate. The offering will now be given and received. In the next piece of music, Go Down Moses.
Each week, before our moment of silence, I offer some words for reflection if you would like something to think about. Our words this week come from Rabbi Bradley Shavet Artson, who says, "Freedom is within our grasp, and Pesach reminds us that we need to reach." So I invite you now to hold a moment of silence together, settle into yourselves and your seats. Might take a few deep breaths deep into your belly if that is comfortable for you. Our reading today is from Rachel Naomi Remen, MD. This verses, all life needs is your faithfulness. Often when he came to visit, my grandfather would bring me a present. These were never the sorts of things that other people brought, dolls and books and stuffed animals. My dolls and books and stuffed animals have been gone for more than more than half a century, but many of my grandfather's gifts are with me still. Once he brought me a little paper cup. I looked inside of it, expecting to see something special. It was full of dirt. I was not allowed to play with dirt. Disappointed, I told him this. He smiled at me fondly. Turning, he picked up the little teapot from the doll's tea set and took me to the kitchen where he filled it with water. Back in the nursery, he put the teacup on the windowsill and handed me the teapot. If you promise to put some water in the cup every day, something may happen, he told me. At the time, I was 4 years old, and my nursery was on the 6th floor of an apartment building in Manhattan. This whole thing made no sense to me at all. I looked at him dubiously. He nodded with encouragement. Every day, Neshumala, he told me. And so I promised. At first, curious to see what would happen, I did not mind doing this. But as the days went and nothing changed, it got harder and harder to remember to put water in the cup. After a week, I asked my grandfather if it was time to stop yet. Shaking his head no, he said, every day, Neshumala. The second week was even harder, and I became resentful of my promise to put water in the cup. When my grandfather came again, I tried to give it back to him, but he refused to take it, saying simply, every day, Neshumala. By the third week, I began to forget to put water in the cup. Often I would remember only after I had been put to bed and would get out of bed and water it in the dark. But I did not miss a single day. And one morning, there were 2 little green leaves that had not been there the night before. I was completely astonished. Day by day, they got bigger. I could not wait to tell my grandfather, certain that he would be as surprised as I was. But of course, he was not. Carefully, he explained to me that life is everywhere, hidden in the most ordinary and unlikely places. I was delighted. And all it needs is water, Grandpa? I asked him. Gently, he touched me on the top of my head. No, Neshumala. All it needs is your faithfulness.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will
The rabbis say that after the Jewish people finally made the decision to flee slavery in Egypt, they traveled over the hot desert sands toward a promised land. The Pharaoh and his armies were in pursuit, furious and vengeful. Finally, Moses and his people came to the Red Sea, a seemingly impassable barrier of tempestuous, raging water. Behind them, Pharaoh's men were gaining, and in front of them, certain death by drowning. Terrified, they fought amongst themselves, crying out to God for help, blaming Moses, each other, themselves. We shouldn't have left Egypt. We shouldn't have listened to Moses. We should have shut up and kept working and been thankful for what we had. They argued and wailed, sobbed and screamed, but there was no sign from God and no clear plan from their leaders. Finally, one person, Nahshon, stood up and started walking into the sea. When the water reached his knees and then his waist, he kept walking. And then when it reached his chest and his chin, he kept walking. Even after it reached his mouth and covered it, he kept walking. Finally, when it reached his nose, God intervened and the seas parted, and a road to freedom and safety opened up before the Jewish people. That is a retelling by my Facebook friend Earl Pike of a story that comes from the Midrash, the wisdom of the rabbis that offers commentary on the Torah. The traditional story from the scripture tells us of Moses leading his people from enslavement in Egypt, that God has promised Moses that they would answer the Israelites' prayers and deliver them from this horror, and Moses leads them to safety. There are a number of ways that this Midrash story can be understood. One is that Nahshon didn't wait for Moses or for God to do something for him on his behalf. In his mind and heart, he saw the promised land and rose and walked into that storming sea. Another way to think about it is that Nahshon personifies praying as if everything depends on God and acting as if everything depends on you. The power of storytelling is that we can each find a meaning we need, and it may be different each time we encounter the story. A third way to understand the story is in that line, all life needs is your faithfulness. When we are faithful, we see the ways life and love move in our lives. That is one of the blessings and the miracles of celebrating holidays like Passover. Our faithfulness can show up as unexpected gifts. There are many ways that we can think of faithfulness. Maybe we think of Micah chapter 6, verse 8, that we should act justly, love mercy, and travel humbly with our God. Maybe we tend the small patch of earth that kisses our feet. Maybe we sing the songs and tell the stories of our people. There are many ways to be faithful. I have come to realize this year yet another way to understand this story, one that emerges as we have been considering the theme of interdependence this month. Not only does Nahshon not wait for Moses or God or anyone else to save him to offer some solution, he realizes his own power and role in making the solution. Our work as faithful people is to not leave things for someone else. Our work as faithful people is to participate in the work as we make the future come to life in this moment and the next, and all the moments that follow. In the familiar turning of the wheel as we move through the seasons and holidays, the turning is not just around, but it is spiraling ever deeper. That's the thing about traditions and why we keep them. In the telling year after year across generations, we can learn again and we can learn something new. Sometimes we are most receptive to learning when we are able to connect with the familiar, but experience it differently. In the traditions we keep, we are tied to our past and our present as much as our future, across not only our lifetimes, but the lifetimes of those who have come before and those who will surely come still. Colleagues have started saying, repetition is faith formation. And we learn. The tradition is familiar to us. We sing the songs and tell the stories and prepare the ritual plates. And yet each time we tell the stories and sing the songs and prepare the plates, we are recreating, we are rebirthing, we are renewing, making anew. Something happens with each telling that is the miracle. We realize some truth or feel a deeper call or are overcome with a memory. The repetition of the telling of the same stories gives us new ears when we are faithful. The repetition also keeps us faithful and reminds us of the vital connections we share across time. It's important in congregational life to have familiar touchstones as the year passes. We recognize many holidays as they come and consider what we can learn from them now that we couldn't have before. I struggled with whether or how to recognize Passover this year with the ongoing and unspeakable terror and genocide of war that has been going on in Gaza for months now. It is unspeakable and yet must be spoken. In the fall, of course, Israel was terrorized by Hamas, an extremist group devoted to the destruction of the state of Israel, and the state of Israel and its government have continued to terrorize Gaza in return. The state is killing innocents, including, maybe even mostly, children. That is to say that the state of Israel is carrying out a legacy of violence that has been used against Jews for millennia in the name of self-protection or for existential security. An argument that likely sounds familiar as we have been reconsidering World War II and fascist politics and use of propaganda in the last months. The oppressed have become the oppressors. Understand that I am pro-Israeli and that I do believe in the importance of an Israeli state, but I am also against the terror that the state has been unleashing against the Palestinians. I know many Israelis do not support what is happening in their name. This is why I chose the story that I did for today, to remember that the Passover story is one of exodus from a homeland, and yet the state of Israel has forced an exodus on others into a diaspora. Unfortunately, this is one of the things that we can understand or perhaps see better as we recognize Passover this year, that we can always become either the oppressed or the oppressor, and we have to work each day to find ways to live in better relationship with ourselves and others so we don't become either. By using different lenses or frames, by considering different perspectives to tell the stories, we can learn and see who we are through each other's eyes. And we can consider in this reflection if we like what we see. Passover is a liberation story and it is a creation story in many ways. The story of the liberation of the Israelites from Egypt, the story of a nation led to freedom and reborn. Before the liberation, though, is the story of what makes the Exodus possible. Called by God to lead his people to freedom, Moses is sent to tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. They had been enslaved for 400 years, doing back-breaking labor and subjected to torturous conditions. God has heard their cries and tells Moses that they will deliver them from the Egyptians. God tells Moses to assemble the elders and tell them that they will be freed, and to go tell Pharaoh and say that the Israelites are to be freed. If Pharaoh does not comply, 10 plagues will be sent to the lands of Egypt, each in an effort to convince Pharaoh to free the Israelites. Each plague was worse than the last and continued through all 10 until Pharaoh all but chases the Israelites out. The plagues begin with water being turned to blood, killing all the fish in the river. The plagues that follow are frogs, lice, flies, or wild animals, blessings on translators, diseased livestock, boils, thunderstorms of hail and fire, locusts, darkness for 3 days, and lastly, the death of all firstborn beings in Egypt, humans and animals. The name of Passover comes from God telling Moses that the Israelites should mark above their doors with lamb's blood to indicate that those were the homes of the Israelites and therefore were passed over in the last plague, sparing the lives of their firstborns. The 10 plagues are iterations mostly of natural phenomenon, with the exception of the last, which made me wonder further about what 10 plagues might look like today. With Earth Day tomorrow and the speculation for years about what humans can do when we have ruined the earth for our safe living, what would an exodus of liberation, of creation, of interdependence look like for us now? What if we create yet another retelling of the story? Because Pharaoh isn't just the leader of the Egyptians. Pharaoh lives in all times. Pharaoh lives when migrants and refugees are caged and sent home to a place that is being destroyed by U.S. economics and trade and industry. Pharaoh exists when corporations poison the water, land, and air as a way to turn unprecedented profits. Pharaoh exists when Black and Indigenous and brown people are killed wantonly in the streets and their homes by the state. Pharaoh exists when trans, non-binary, and LGBTQIA+ folks are prevented from getting the health care they need and deserve. Pharaoh exists when abortion rights are denied. Pharaoh exists when we are not in right relationship with our neighbors and the world. Pharaoh exists when we become oppressors. Maybe the 10 plagues of today are environmental, that is air, water, and land pollution, accelerating species extinction, melting glaciers, evaporating lakes and water scarcity, spreading of disease and global pandemics, food insecurity, the rising sea level, international insecurity for populations, the climate refugees, and of course, global warming and climate change. We have been trying to keep the earth in bondage, and she keeps telling us that she needs us to remember that we all do better when we act from our interdependence, when we care for her as she has cared for us. She cries out, and some of us are listening. Some of us are terrified. We fight amongst ourselves, crying out for help, blaming scientists and corporations and whoever, each other. We should have done something sooner. We shouldn't have listened to all those things that were too good to be true. We should have listened to that still, small voice and kept exploring our options and been thankful for what we have. We argued and wailed, sobbed and screamed, but there was no sign from God and no clear plan from our leaders. Let's be clear, There's a lot of talk, but not a lot of actual planning or enforcement, or even faithfulness. Finally, a small group of brave people rose and came to the front lines. Initially, there was a lot of resistance. It was hard to hear their voices over the protests, but they continued to talk and shared the data, and more people heard and understood and believed. Even as this happened, resistance continued, but still they spoke out undeterred. The movement was gaining acceptance, and things were starting to change, even though the pace of destruction was still greater. A road to freedom and safety opened up before the earth and her lifelings. That small group of people, brave people, didn't wait for a leader to appear or a decision to be made. In their minds and hearts, they saw the promised land and rose and walked into the storming seas. They personify praying as if everything depends on God and acting as if everything depends on us. Because in the end, it is what we do that matters. We depend on our faithfulness. What we all must remember in the Passover story, the war in Gaza, our relationship with the earth, we must care for one another as if our lives depend on it, because there is just one home we all share. Where one of us goes, we all must go. We belong to each other. Your people are my people, your divine, my divine. There is nothing else, nowhere else for us to go or to be. We tell the stories every year in community to mark and remember together because we need each other. Community is our strength and our hope, and we tell these stories to remember the power to overcome, to resist, to be resilient. Because the truth is that we need to continue telling the stories year after year because justice is not yet done. There is still much work to do. We tell the stories every year to be reminded of this, that oppression harms not only the oppressed but the oppressors, that we must all participate in striving for freedom or perish, that the work is not yet done, that the forms may be different, but many people still live in Egypt's land, and having once been strangers, it is ours to continue to work for freedom, and we must do it together. All life needs is your faithfulness. We might act justly, love mercy, and travel humbly with our God. Or maybe we tend the small patch of earth that kisses our feet. Maybe we sing the songs and tell the stories of our people. There are many ways to be faithful. Life is everywhere, hidden in the most ordinary and unlikely places. All it needs is your faithfulness. If you would please rise in body or in spirit and lift your voice in song with me. Hymn number 1028 in the teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment. close every service with the same words from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in the lore of she has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this journey of hope with me.
We hope that you found meaning in today's service. We close with these words from Amanda Alice Uluhuan. Together, we have enjoyed the warmth and beauty of stories of this flame and of this special community. As our child's flame is extinguished this morning, we can still remember that its glow is carried within us. We can use our inner lights and this flame to kindle new sparks throughout our lives in the world. May the spirit of peace and togetherness bless your